The time for change is now. I'm kidding. But what I want to talk about today are changes that I would like to see with some of the format in which legacy premium squads in general, and some event squads are put into the game. So, I know I've talked about this a bit in the past, a few different times, but I kind of want to put everything down in one video and, talk about it, right? The crux of the issue that I have is that there are too many premium squads in the game, too many event squads in the game that just don't hold their value. And even though it's not something that Darkflow's ever come out and directly addressed, by coming out and saying, hey, we acknowledge that there's a problem, right? It is something that they've taken steps in the past to adjust, and it's something that I think they're going to have to do again in the future. So, I guess let's start from the beginning. Back in the olden days, premium squads were laid out a little bit differently than how they are commonly today, and it's kind of shifting today as well, but we're going to start from the beginning. So, back in the day, you normally had 4-man engineer teams, 4-man assault teams, and 4-man machine gun teams. And then you had 9-man rifleman teams. And then on top of that you had vehicles. So usually air vehicles were fighters. Sometimes they would carry small bombs. But there were no attack planes for a long time. And on top of that there were tanks, but the tanks were probably the best value back at that point in time, because usually, they're a tank. It's really hard to mess up a tank. It's just, is the armor good enough? Does the gun kill things, right? It's really hard to gimp a tank. So because of that, there's a lot of these legacy premium squads kicking around these days that they're 5-man now, but the 5th man is an engineer that got shoehorned in, and they're just a normal tech tree, Joe average engineer. They don't get the same weapon as the rest of the squad. And to be honest, it's actually a pretty decent fix. It does give you a little bit of weapon diversity in the squad. It does give you the option to change their weapon, which is kind of nice. Would it be better if they had the same weapon as everybody else? Probably, but it's not something that really bothers me. I just appreciate that there is, in fact, an engineer in the old 4-man assault squads and the old 4-man machine gun squads. And that didn't all happen at once. Basically, what happened is the newer squads were all getting engineers because Darkflow recognized that engineers are core to the game and they're really important. And then people spoke up, and eventually they retroactively gave it to the assault squads. Then later on they or maybe, I'm not sure the order actually, it might have been the machine gun squads first and then the assault squads, but either way, the machine gun squads got it because they added the heavy machine gun position that machine gun squads could build. The assault squads just got it because we complained. The thing is, that completely ignored the rifleman squads, and so to this day, we still have 9-man rifleman squads, and besides just bodies, they have nothing to show for them. And some of them are okay, because they have decent weapons, but a lot of them, like the Grotto 3, I think if that was a BR3 weapon, would be really good. It might even be too powerful for BR3. It probably would belong in BR4, but it doesn't belong in BR5. Not that BR4 as a distinction matters right now, but that's getting into a different problem. But assuming that BR4 as a distinction did matter, I don't think that it belongs in BR5, because it's a 9-man squad with semi-automatic rifles. They're not automatic, they have no engineer, they have no AT, they have no radio operator, there's 0 specialists, right? So anyway, getting on with the evolution of the game, eventually we started to get more interesting and more unique premium squads, things that just didn't really fit the old mold. So, for example, we got the Tunisian radio squads. They're 5-man squads, 4 radio operators, and an engineer. There's one for the Italians, one for the British. They're both from Tunisia. it's actually a pretty awesome squad. Likewise, we've got the flamethrower squads in Tunisia. There's also a little bit of a theme here. Tunisia wasn't super popular, and I think they tried to turbocharge it by giving it more unique premium squads. So, for the flamethrower squad, engineer 4 flamethrowers, right? Stands apart because there's no other way to do that in the game. Eventually, when we got the machine gun squads in Moscow, we got 5 machine gunners, 2 of them are engineers. Again, it really stood out as being different. Now, bring all that to today, and we've gone even further, right? We've gotten premium sniper squads, which they're fine. It's 5-man squad, engineer, snipers. We've got paratroopers, and we've got half-tracks. And paratroopers and half-tracks are where I think things really came together. We were already trending towards premium squads having better value when they put in the radio operator squad and the snipers and the flamethrowers, and when they first came out with the newer format for machine gun squads. But it really hit a head when we got the paratroopers, because number one, it's the only way to reliably get paratroopers in the game. It's not like you can go back and do old events, but even if paratroopers were in the tech tree, they would still hold value as a premium squad, because bringing more than one paratrooper squad is extremely valuable. And the premium paratrooper squads, the event paratrooper squads, and I imagine if they ever came out with a third variant of the paratrooper squads, would all basically look the same. Likewise, when you look at the half-track squads versus the tech tree squads, either format would be fine, but the point is, they're both 6-man squads, they both get a half-track, they both can have their weapons swapped out on everybody. The premium ones are even better because their transports are armed, and they get better specialist options, right? So, again, there's a theme here, which is why what I'm asking for is an update for the assault squads, the engineer squads, and the rifleman squads, especially the rifleman squads. I imagine if they updated them, they would see an influx of sales of these older squads, but it wouldn't surprise me if in the future they just move away from these squads entirely and either come out with them in a new format, or just transition to these more unique squad types. So, what I would like to see change is I would like to see the premium squad size come to a standard 6 men. I understand that a lot of tech tree squads are 7 men. I would be happy with adding one more soldier to the assault squad, to the machine gun squad. I'd be happy to add 2 more to the engineer squad. I mean, I'd be okay with a 5-man engineer squad, but 4 isn't cutting it. And then we'll get into specialists in a moment. But basically my reasoning here is a tech tree squad right now for assaulters is like 7 dudes. For machine gunners, it's like 7 dudes. Right now, we're still running on a 5-man base for those for premium squads, which isn't terrible. It isn't even the core issue. But if we're going to add one specialist in, rather than swapping out an assaulter, I'd rather introduce it like the engineer update, and just add an AT soldier onto all of these squads. And if I had to pick which specialist to put on, it would be an AT soldier. In an ideal world, I think what you would do is make it a flex slot where you can put any specialist in there. So you could put like a sniper, a machine gunner, an assaulter, you know, whatever, right? All the normal ones that you could normally pick from in a normal squad. But for simplicity's sake, and because I don't imagine that Darkflow particularly wants to open that up, I would be content with just adding an AT soldier. And to be fair, an AT soldier is personally what I would choose to run in all of those squads. So basically, you now have your 6-man premium assault squad, which now has 1 less than tech tree squad. So you are still paying a price, but to be honest, like, to be 100% honest, I think that premium squads and tech tree squads should one-to-one mirror each other. I don't think there should be any difference, because what you're actually paying for with a premium squad, in my opinion, is the premium bonus. And the premium bonus is just a quick progression. I don't think that you should be gimping premium squads on the nature that people are forking over like $30 to progress a little bit faster, but that's an aside. I don't think we're going to go straight to one-to-one parity in every squad. So, for now, I would like to go to a 6-man assault squad. It's one less than the tech tree assault squad. It has the engineer, which it currently has. It has the 4 assaulters, which it currently has. Add in 1 AT soldier. In an ideal world, that AT soldier would come with the same gun as everybody else in the squad, but what I'm actually advocating for is taking all of the current squads and shifting them to be legacy squads as well. So you put in a tech tree AT soldier that uses tech tree AT weapons. Any new assault squad that comes out, just like with the engineer upgrade, comes out with 6 guys, 4 of them are assaulters, they have the special weapon, 1 of them is an engineer, he has the special weapon, 1 of them is an AT soldier, and he has the special weapon. And then give them whatever AT weapon is appropriate for their BR. Now, the same thing I think you could do with the machine gun squad, exact same format. Then, the one that stands out as being different is the rifleman squad. The rifleman squad has never seen an update. So, I don't even think we've gotten a new premium rifleman squad in like 2 years. I think that Darkflow saw that they're not really selling, and I assume that they just decided that it's not worth making rifleman squads, which I think is too bad. I know that some people do value premium rifleman squads because you can open up the second weapon slot and you basically have a 9-man squad that you can arm with like BR5 weapons. Like, let's say you give them all FG42s or whatever. And so now you have a relatively cracked 9-man premium squad. You still don't have any specialists, but that's like the only like good use that I've seen for them. Otherwise, you can run them at, you know, BR1 and 2 pretty comfortably, but that's about it. At the very least, they need an engineer. And I don't understand why, after all of this time, we still have 9-man premium rifleman squads with no engineer. Now, I don't think that you need to take the 9-man premium rifleman squad and make it a 10-man squad. I think that'd be honestly kind of dumb, because the tech tree one is not a 10-man squad. What I think you can do, though, is take the last 2 guys off of it and give the AT soldier and give the engineer, or give an engineer and give a radio operator. It doesn't really matter what they get, but they could use a little bit of something. And then, hey, maybe then Darkflow will actually start making premium rifleman squads again. I think there's a lot of cool rifles out there that they could potentially put on a premium squad, but you know, at the rate that things are currently going, I don't think we're ever going to see those, which maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they'll just end up in the tech tree instead, but if they're rifleman weapons and the alternative is them ending up in the Battle Pass shop, I'd rather get it as a premium squad. Because with the Battle Pass shop, I can only put like 4 of them on. I think it's much cooler if I can get a 9-man squad that all have a neat, unique weapon. But I digress. As far as the more modern specialist squads, like the sniper teams, or the radio operators, or the flamethrowers, I actually would leave those alone. I think because of their specialized nature, because let's say the flamethrowers, right? In a normal squad, you can only get 2 flamethrowers. In this squad, you can get 4. I think that's a massive bonus. And so I think that would be fine to leave them the way they are. They don't really need anything else. They're just a specialized squad. It's the same with the radio operators. In an ideal world, I would take one of the radio operators off, keep it like a 5-man squad, or maybe go to a 6-man squad. I don't really have a strong opinion on this one. and give them the AT soldier. But at the end of the day, having 4 radio operators is specialized enough, and there's no other way to do something like that in the game, that I think that they're probably fine to leave alone. And I feel the same way about snipers. And on top of that with the snipers, if the other 2 roles were already specialized, having a 5-man sniper team is even more specialized. So you're basically taking a 5-man scalpel and giving them something like an AT soldier. It would be useful sometimes, but it would be so rarely useful that I just don't even think it's worth changing them. Like, if you weren't going to pick up a sniper team before, if they put an AT soldier on it, you're still not going to pick up a sniper team, because snipers have a very specific playstyle, and if that's not your playstyle, adding on an AT soldier is not going to change that. Or an assaulter, or a machine gunner, or any other individual soldier. Like, just adding that on is never going to change that. It actually does surprise me a little bit that they don't have a radio operator, you know, for like the recon kind of squad. But again, it's not something that I think that they need. I think the sniper teams are fine. Beyond that, for the planes, I think I would leave the planes alone. I think War Thunder has taught me that putting in premium weapons that operate outside the control sphere of your average player generally does not make people happy. So it's nice when we get premiums like the D9 or like some of the planes in the Pacific that have decent bomb loads. But at the end of the day, they're usually still fighters. They're just like fighters that are a little bit better at ground attacking. If they tomorrow came out and they were like, hey, guess what? At BR3, we're coming out with a premium duck, and it's going to have the 75mm cannon on it. Like, I think a lot of people would be really excited for that, and I think a lot of people would be really pissed off because, you know, their tanks would have 75mm rounds coming through the roof every game. Don't get me wrong, it would be cool. It would probably sell well, but it might not be the smartest thing to add, just because I think it would rile people up more than is necessary. As far as the Paratroopers and the half-tracks go, I actually think that they're kind of the gold standard. They're what I judge every other premium squad against, because as far as like player value goes, the half-tracks can't be beaten, because they're placed at like BR2 or 3 price-wise. So they're not particularly expensive when it comes to premium squads, but they're a squad that you can outfit with anything that you want, and unlike every other type of premium squad in the game, except for the Russian Paratroopers, they're the kind of squad that you can use as a brand new BR1 player, and they're a squad that can continue seeing use on your lineup as a BR5 player who's researched everything in the tech tree. And I think my ideal world for premium squads and event squads is to put them into a position where, as a new player, I would be excited to get them, and as a veteran player, like myself, who has researched virtually everything in the game, I still look at them and say, yeah, that's worth putting on my lineup. And right now, most of the squads that we've talked about just are not worth running on my lineup. Like, unless I want to make a meme loadout. And to be fair, I do a lot of just random goofy lineups, and I do a lot of lineups that aren't ideal, but they help to keep things interesting. But at the end of the day, I would like to sit down and look at my tech tree and say, hey, look, I have this premium squad. I've had it for years. It was awesome when I was a new player, and you know what? It's just as awesome today as the day when I got it. Unfortunately, that's not the world that I'm in right now. More often than not, I look at these older premium squads, and especially I look at event squads, and I just shrug at them and they gather dust. I think that the event squads need to mimic their tech tree counterparts. Period. End of discussion. I think that there's a little bit more leeway with the premium squads because of the premium bonus, but the thing is, I still think that they should more or less one-to-one mimic their tech tree counterparts, because, like, I know people will give this stupid bullshit argument of, but it's pay to win. Okay. The thing you need to understand is for something to be pay to win, it has to be better than what's in the tech tree, okay? And if what you're getting out of it is faster progression, but not more power, it's not pay to win. Because you're not paying to win, you're paying to progress. And as far as I'm concerned, pay to progress is perfectly fine. It's when you start coming out with things, like I gave the example of the duck earlier, something that I think would actually be a pay to win vehicle. Like, there really isn't anything like that in the game right now that you can get for free, and it would be extremely powerful. Paratroopers are probably the only example of something that's actually pay to win in the game right now. Like, the half-track squads are close enough to their tech tree squads that I think that they're fine. And on top of that, most of the bonuses that you gain by being a premium half-track are kind of just fluff. They're not actually good bonuses. Like, having a machine gun on a half-track doesn't actually do much for you. Like, if you're sitting there in your half-track, I promise you're playing the game wrong. There's like one half-track in the game right now that, depending on your matchmaking, does okay. But the rest of them, it's a useful thing for you to play with while you're driving to the front. But I promise you, if you're sitting there and your gameplay loop is I sit on my half-track, you're playing wrong. Which is to say that it's technically a bonus, but it's just surface level. It's like getting the extra specialists in the half-track. It's nice, but I usually run both of the half-tracks alongside each other, and it really just depends on the map which one I prefer. Like, if I'm playing on Ardennes, I absolutely prefer spawning in the tech tree half-track, because it's got riflemen, and riflemen generally have better weapons that are going to perform at range, at least in my case. Whereas, if we're fighting in, like, Berlin, then I'm almost always going to prefer pulling out the half-track, the actual half-track, because it's going to have an extra assaulter and machine gunner. It's better. But my point here is that they're situationally better than one another. It's not like you got a half-track and you automatically win the game. So, these are basically the changes that I would like to see. Everything that I said about premium squads is true for event squads, arguably more so because, I mean, if we're going to be constantly running events and you want people to actually engage with them, it's nice to get something that actually is useful. I know in like my looking back video I referenced the New Year's squads. I think the New Year's squads are cool looking, but I ultimately think they're worthless. Whereas you look at the Russian paratroopers from Christmas and they're awesome. You look at all the paratroopers we got last year, they're awesome. You look at the engineers we just got, they're pretty awesome. So there are examples of what's good, there are examples of what's not good. My hope here is that Darkflow looks at what does well, and they give us more of that, and they stop giving us crap. So let me know what you think down below. I'm sure that a lot of you disagree with me. I'm sure there's going to be a substantial amount of people that are of the mindset that, and I think this is a really flawed mindset, but I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people that are like, I hate this guy because he spent money on the game. Because, like, I know a lot of people that have played this, played War Thunder, played other games that are similar to these, and the thing that's universal between all of them is that all of them have encountered at one point or another people in-game bitching at them because they decided to buy something in the game. So I know that there are going to be people that just blatantly disagree with this, that don't think that you should pay for anything in the game, and think that the things that you do pay for should be worse than the tech tree stuff. I think it's a stupid mindset. But let me know what you think down below. Like I said before, I think that across the board, everything should be like 1-to-1 equal. Because I don't think you're paying for power, I think what you're paying for is progression. And as long as they've put the right weapons at the right BR, you should always be paying for progression. And assuming that that's true, then when you buy your premium squad, you're just getting faster progression. So, let me know. As per usual, get out there, kick ass, take names, and win your games.